Hey there, listeners, and welcome to Project Zero, where we hear the journeys of some of the top project leaders in the game. My name is Alex Tuck, and I'm the host. I'm here with the head of the PMO at Kinetics Technology and friend, David Morris. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate the invite and glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome. I can't wait to hear about your Project Zero. I bet you have a couple of them that you can share.
I do.
Oh, man, cool. Awesome. Well, Dave, start us off here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do at Kinetics.
Sure. So I joined Kinetics about, I want to say 3 years ago, actually through Alex's company. So I appreciate that, Alex, and been enjoying the journey since. I started off there just as the manager of our projects department and eventually moved through and took over all of service delivery and project management roles there, consolidated everything. So right now, we, as an MSP, we run with about 50 employees, and we're part of a larger organization called New Charter Technology. We partner with a lot of our sister companies, our MSP sister companies, to get a lot of work done, right, in the MSP space, whether that's network setup and management, maintenance, servers, even cabling everything up. We do physical to virtual migrations, email migrations, any sort of migration that you can think of, pretty much anything involved with technology. We do it. We've been doing a lot more recently with AI and just enjoying that journey as we learn more with our both within Kinetics and with our clients. There is not much that we don't do. And from my side, like I said, I oversee the entire projects department and handle communications with clients. I have a team that works with me, both engineers and project managers, and it keeps me busy. I enjoy this work, been doing it for a while. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do at Kinetics and what we do.
That's awesome. I was at Channel Partners. When was it? Sometime in the spring, I think. And I saw Peter. He was speaking, and I was like, "Oh my God, holy!"
Yep. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know one of your companies, one of your new holdings. That's pretty wild. That's cool. Thanks, David. Thanks for that overview. Cool. So, give us a little background. Like, when did you start working in project management? Was it from the beginning?
I graduated from college back in 2006, so it's been a while. This is the 20th year of doing anything related to IT in general, right from the beginning. I did a hybrid role of business analysis and project management, working from the beginning and then working my way up to where I am now. So it's been about 20 years, and I've seen as much as I possibly can in that time. How I got started in this role, I basically worked my way through it in college when I got my bachelor's degree, then my master's degree, and then eventually got my terminal degree, my doctorate, which is heavily focused in project management. I've been trying to do what I can to further my education while also getting as much experience as I can.
That's awesome. What was your undergraduate in?
Business administration and actually data analytics. And then my MBA was focused in, again, business administration. And I leaned toward the HR side of everything just to get a different side of the world. And then the doctorate was focused in business administration, again, with a concentration in project management and finance. I've tried to hit each world as I've gone along.
That's awesome. You have that traditional project management arc. You knew you were going to do it since the beginning, and
Yep.
we're about the same age. And I think I actually should have graduated in 2006. I graduated in December of 2005. And there wasn't really, I mean, Project Management Institute existed. Project management was a thing, but it wasn't a popular thing to go into yet. That really started to take flight later in that decade, I think. So you were ahead of the game. What did the first company do that you started to work at?
It was actually at Hertz, the rental car company, and I worked my way into doing the project management role in addition to other things. And so I actually focused a lot to start on the data behind each location that we were at. And then I managed just projects for how to deploy inventory and stuff like that to the different locations, which is a little bit different than what you'd see at some vacation or areas like Florida, California, even Boston, where it's nicer. I was focused more in Northeast Ohio, where people don't want to come and rent cars, right? So we had to figure out creative ways to deploy these. So I came up with these, not super in-depth to start, but pretty in-depth project plans and how to best deploy stuff using the data that we had available. But you're absolutely right. It wasn't project management as we know it today. It was not the same thing.
That's crazy. And you got your PMP around that time, right? Didn't you? When you,
2010, I want to say.
yeah, even that's so different right now, right?
It is.
Yeah. And you just got your portfolio manager professional. You just took that. Tell us about that process.
That was an interesting one, right? Because I was trying to look for a way to differentiate myself essentially from having my PMP. That's a very popular certification, but I was looking for a new way to challenge myself beyond the education that I had. And so I looked up, portfolio management professional has been around for almost 15 years, I want to say now with PMI, but it just hasn't picked up the same steam and the rigor behind the test and the studying. It's a little bit different than it is for the PMP. And so I decided to sign up for it. I actually took a class for it that just walked through the basics of everything. And then from that point on, I took practice exam after practice exam to get familiar with the questions, pretty much how any standardized test is with PMI. You need to get used to exactly how they ask the question and understand there might be 4 right answers here. Just need to get the correct one. And so I actually sat for the exam on, I want to say last week or the week before, and found out that I passed, which was great. And one other additional piece to the PFMP is that you have to submit your credentials and basically the history of your work to a panel who then takes time to review that, and it can take up to 6 weeks. So if you are planning on doing that, make sure that you allot yourself enough time to actually complete that questionnaire, because it does take a few hours, submit it, and then expect up to 60 days. So it can take a while for them to review it. It was nice that I got the okay to sit for the exam after the panel review after the first time, and then thankfully I was able to pass the exam on the first attempt as well. So I was pretty thankful for that piece. But it was definitely interesting. It was difficult, but it's worth it.
When you first told me about it, you talked about how in the moment you were like, "Oh wow, how's this going?" That's
Right.
I tell everyone when I sat for the BMP and I took it, I was like, "Oh my god, I failed this test." And I'm good at taking tests, but I thought for sure I was bombing it, and I ended up doing like above average in every area, but it didn't feel like it at all.
That's how I felt too, because you go through it and you read and you're like, I think this might be right. And I think I've said it to 10 different people, including you, Alex. I've never taken a 170 question test where I wasn't sure about 170 of the answers that I gave. Whenever the screen flashed, right, and it said pass, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Right. I don't have to do this again.
Oh my god, that's so good. Well, congrats. That's a big accomplishment there for sure. You're one of a couple thousand people.
It's like around 2,000 people
Yeah,
globally. I think it'll take off as it continues maturing, but I am pretty proud. And I'm like, okay, what's the next one? What do I do next?
that's right. That's right. That's so cool. All right. Well, taking a step back, let's talk a little bit about Project Zero, that first project where you figured out how to be a project manager. What was your Project Zero?
The one that I landed on was actually after my first job, because I was just figuring out basic processes and working through it whenever I was at Hertz. But then I eventually ended up working at Smucker's, the jam and jelly company, but much larger company now, bigger even now than whenever I was there. But we had just acquired while I was there Folgers. And so that was a big deal. And so we were going through this huge data transition, and we had all of our internal systems where they were homegrown, and it just wasn't cutting it quite the same, because with this new multi-billion-dollar acquisition, we suddenly had an influx of data. We had to figure out a way to publish all this data up to a global synchronization database that retailers could pull down. And I don't want to get too technical on this because people's eyes tend to glaze over at times in this, but we had to figure out a way to get this data reliably up there, because there can be heavy fines if the retailers get the wrong data, because that's how they stock their shelves in their storerooms. So we went through a lot of trial and error, but that is where I really learned to be much more process oriented, to focus on an actual plan and not just wing it. Because if I'm just winging it and I have millions and millions of data points, it's going to be impossible to walk through exactly what we need to do. How do we standardize everything? So the project itself actually ended up lasting about 2 years. It was one of my longest projects even to date, where we standardized all the processes for taking all this data in and then exporting it out and updating all the systems so that they were enterprise level, not just for a company that, as we would have known it, just a jam and jelly company. Suddenly they're much larger. So it's an interesting project. I still remember all the details today, even though that was probably 15, 16 years ago, right around them. but it definitely formed that foundation for me. This is what we have to do. You have to have a plan going in. You have to have a good testing plan. You have to have the right people lined up, the right stakeholders involved. I've since obviously moved on from Smuckers, but that was a heck of an opportunity for me to learn what I needed to.
That's so cool. It's a good reminder that whether it's a retail company or manufacturer, there's so much technology behind it and so much data. And there's a lot of IT people behind all that. Do you have a mentor that was helping you think about project management through this whole thing, or were you just figuring it out on your own?
That's a good question because I was just thinking about this yesterday when I was speaking with my wife. But at the time, I didn't have a mentor. I had people that I would go to just ask basic questions, but that was more involved, like, hey, what do I do with this data? It wasn't more, hey, how do I do this project reliably? So I never had any sort of formal or informal mentor. Whenever I visited a few other places after I became a consultant, I had a few people that were like that I looked up to and asked a few questions, but it was never anything long term. So it was more learning on my own. I think just with my style of learning, that was probably better for me long term, even though it may have been much more painful at the beginning. Because my suggestion would just always be look for or ask for a mentor. And honestly, that's what I was talking about with my wife yesterday. I think I want to take on that responsibility again because I've done it before and then I put it off for a while whenever we had kids. And now I'm like, okay, now's a good time. The kids are growing up a little bit, they're going to school. So maybe now's the time to start looking. But I can recognize the importance of having a mentor whenever someone's just starting to learn, or even whenever you're at the mid level. Like, how do I take that next step? It makes sense because you and I, we've been doing this for 20 years,
Yeah.
right? We're, like you said, we're around the same age. So it's about time for us to say, hey, how can we help others rather than people trying to scrape and claw and figuring out for themselves.
Yeah, I still like when I started my company, I sort of restarted my company about 6 years ago. I was looking for mentors, people that I looked up to from a values perspective and how they spent time with their family and ran their companies and grew and did all the things and treated their employees well. There was nobody there. Every single person I talked to, they might be great business people, but then they would sacrifice their time with their family or they'd be on the road. That wasn't bad for them. It was just different. It wasn't what I was trying to achieve. And so then I realized, oh, wow, I can find other people that are either at the same part of the journey as I have, or maybe even a little bit ahead, and then just take parts of it. I have peer mentors that are really good at business, or they really figured out how to balance their time with their families or whatever. And that's been huge. Like once I gave up that whole, hey, I need this single mentor that has everything figured out, to trying to find a set of mentors has been huge.
That's a really good point. And I wanted to hit on that too, because what you had just said, where some people focus on business and some people focus on families. I was very heavily invested in single-minded with work. And then I realized with some prodding from my wife, thankfully, that, hey, that doesn't have to be your life. I understand why the allure to it and why some people do it. I totally get there's nothing wrong with it if that's your journey. Then I had to make a mental shift and a change, especially whenever our first kid came. I had to make that change. It was difficult. You have to set those boundaries. Now I have boundaries that whenever my workday ends, I have family time for X amount of hours and the kids go to bed. And if something else needs to be done, I will do it. But I think it's similar with you, that family time is important, especially whenever the kids are little or younger. You don't get that time back. But I did want to point that out. If you feel like you can't shift, I promise you can. It's not easy sometimes. I used to enjoy putting in 80 hours of work a week, but I realized, oh, I can't continue doing that and maintain having a happy family. So I'm like, okay, yep, we're going to shift over, going to be happy in a different way. And I'm happy I did it. I'm very excited that I did it.
Yeah, I can vouch for the fact that you still work like crazy. And I love what I do. I love it. My wife gets frustrated with me sometimes because she's like, it can't be true, but I'm so excited to start working on Monday. I cannot wait. I love that we traveled 13 weekends in a row this summer. That's awesome. We had so many rich experiences, but I'm so excited to get back to my office and sit at my desk and do things. That's how you know you're in the right spot. You figured out the right thing for work. And then it doesn't feel like work. And you can balance it with family and volunteering and all the other things that you care about.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about that mentorship, that advice that you would give to a new project manager. What's the number one skill that you think a PM needs and why?
Yeah, I think a PM needs to, and There's a couple number one skills, but the one that always tops my list is just being able to communicate with all parties. I can teach or I can learn the hard skills, right? But if you can't communicate with a person, you're going to struggle a lot of the time. I know I've taught people and I learned as well how to balance and how to figure out how to write up project plans, how to be responsible in how I allocate my time. I feel like anyone can learn that, but it is very difficult to learn if you are not willing to learn how to communicate. I think that's the most important thing for me, especially today, whenever I'm largely speaking with clients a lot of the time. If I couldn't communicate with them, there's no way that they would trust me to be able to run these large scale or even small scale projects. And I would say communication is definitely number one. If you're not good at it, you can still practice. I practice in the mirror all the time or in front of other people or made my family sit there while I spoke to them and they had to pretend to be interested. But if you're not good at communicating, you can get better.
It's interesting. All the good PMs like you, I know you're a great storyteller. And I know that it's not the first time you told a story either. It's all about analogies. It's like, hey, look, I know that this feels frustrating for you. And I know you're like pressed hard. Help me figure out how to help you achieve this thing. What is your blocker? And that stuff is really hard because you have to be empathetic, but then also you have to be real with people. You have to be direct. If you're taking the PMP, the main thing is like address the problem. If there's an answer about that, go for it. Communication comes up a lot. When I ask this question with folks, I would say 75% of the people have picked communication in some way or another, but that negotiation skill is so hard.
Negotiation is fun because you have to be willing to disagree with someone or feel like you're disagreeing with them. That's a type of communication. Another part would be willing to deliver bad news whenever you're in projects or to people. That's a big thing. Or what others may view as bad news when in reality, you're just being honest. That's how I view it. It may be bad news, I understand, but this is the truth that I'm trying to give you based on the data that's out there currently. Like you said, be empathetic, understand the situation. You don't want to be a robot because people don't respond very well to robots speaking with them. But yeah, you're right. That negotiation, that's extremely important too.
Speaking of robots, right? How do you think AI is going to change how we do project management or the project management role in general over the next 10
Yeah.
years?
It's hard to look out 10 years because it's just been a few years since we've started using AI tools. Now I'm fully integrated almost with ChatGPT now and even Copilot and a couple of others. Over the next 10 years, I don't see AI tools or robots or anything taking over the role of project management because clients don't want to only interact with non-human entities. There is that human element that people enjoy talking with and they get sense of trust and feeling. But what I do see AI doing, and it's already doing this, is taking care of a lot of those lower level tasks that we tend to focus a lot of time on, like emails. There's never really been a great way to solve the problem of emails where you get 100 emails a day or more and you have to just go through them all and you have to figure out what do I do with these and how do I prioritize these along with my meetings and my work. So I think there's going to be a lot of advancements in ability for project managers to focus on the human tasks over the next 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, and relying on AI to help us with the basic communication and planning and stuff like that. I can't see it completely taking over the role of project managers. I know that fear is out there right now, but I think we'll probably be long gone before that happens at this point.
I think you're right. I had one of these experiences where my flight got canceled this weekend and I needed to get back to my family. And I was like, oh, let me just go and get on the chat. And so there was an AI assisted agent. So it wasn't fully AI agent, it was an AI assisted agent. I'd looked up a flight. I saw that there were 2 more seats on these other 2-leg flights. And I was like, all right, can you help me book this? I was getting a run in. And so I'm chatting with them and spent like 40 minutes interacting with them. And then it disconnected anyway. And I was like, oh, this is so frustrating. I called the Amex travel agent and she got me booked in 5 minutes.
Right.
Interacting with a human is pretty awesome when you can.
They know the systems and how humans will respond
That's right.
and how they want you to respond. It's funny that you bring up the flight thing because I just recently had something similar happen where I was in Seattle and I needed to get back to Ohio. I was coming from Vancouver in Canada and every flight was being delayed. I'm typing in the chat GPT. I'm flying into Seattle's airport. It's changed the gate to here. I have 16 minutes between connections. Can I possibly make it? And it's mapping this out for me. I asked it and the AI assisted bot on the website. They couldn't help me. They
Yep.
couldn't change flights for me. And so I'm like, well, ChatGPT, how do I get on this flight? Because I need to get home because it's going to be my anniversary the next day. My wife and I's 8th wedding anniversary, and I can't miss that. So yeah, it was an interesting situation, something very similar to what you said. It
Yeah.
worked out well for me in the end, though. Thankfully, I made it on time with about 4 minutes to spare.
Yeah. That's an amazing use case. I have a friend, he'll take a picture of where he's parked in Philly, and then he'll say, what app do I need to park here? When's it free? Because it's very challenging to try to figure out parking in Philly or Montreal or any of these bigger cities. So he uses it for that. And just like all these real world use cases where you can leverage AI to help you with complex challenges like that, it's the way to go.
I agree.
Yeah. And you guys are doing some stuff at Kinetics and New Charter, right? Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing there with
Sure.
AI.
New Charter actually acquired a company called Orchestrate AI earlier this year. And they, along with the company and the assets, came almost all of their employees, including their CEO and president. And so we are at New Charter. They formed a new innovation department where that CEO is now, he's in charge of that entire innovation department. And they are coming up with ways to utilize both an internal AI system that complements the usage of ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, anything that you can think of. And actually, we ended up losing one of our main members of Kinetics to this team, which it was bittersweet for me because I loved this man and he was fantastic for Kinetics. What he can do for New Charter as a whole and have the ability to roll out more now and focus more on what he wanted to do. It's been a fantastic opportunity for him. And actually, it's been good for Kinetics and me because he's been able to roll out all those tools first to us for us to test. And it's been great. So we have the centralized innovation team at New Charter, which then rolls out all these new innovations in AI. And so a couple of months ago, we actually got ChatGPT Enterprise rolled out to all of the companies under New Charter, which I think they're up to 30 now. It's pretty neat to see some of the statistics and analytics behind everything. We have competitions now on who can use it, what company can use it the most. And you have some people using it 5, 6, 700 times weekly in 5 days. I use it several hundred, and I thought I was using it a lot, but some of these other people put me to shame. But then we also have our internal resources as well that we need to figure out a way, because all of this data is pooled amongst 30 companies plus New Charter. And so we had to figure out a way to divide this up and make it so that it's very useful to people because it's just so much information. And we want to be able to use all of this information and work together with all of our other companies effectively. And we were having trouble with that. This innovation team has come up with a way to utilize AI with an internal AI to figure out ways for our companies to work better together. I'm going to use the word that's a catchword for everyone, the synergy, but it's effective here to figure out ways like how can this 50 or 30 or 50 person MSP in, let's say, South Carolina, how can they work together with this 50 person MSP in California? And it's not immediately noticeable on how that can happen, but with these new AI tools being rolled out, it's making these pairings that we didn't see before. It'll get better over time as it ingests that data and we help it learn and figure out, oh, there's a deficiency over here. Let's say this company doesn't have anyone that knows how to deploy Jamf, right? And this other company knows how to deploy Intune better. So it'll automatically know that and report this out to a larger team. So it's been very useful and it's only going to get better. We just rolled it out not that long ago and we're still testing it, but it's fun to see some of those advancements. And the adoption rate, especially at Kinetics, it has skyrocketed. Every single person at Kinetics has a ChatGPT Enterprise account. They've logged in. They're actively using it. You can see communication itself happening much faster, and it's a lot cleaner too. You can see people are running emails through ChatGPT and saying, can you please clean this up for me? And it's just a lot cleaner. I've told him remove the icons and some of those things that automatically pop up. But we're doing a lot of fun things with AI right now, just from a company and enterprise level.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. It comes from the culture that Pratap created. We started off there, and then Ryan and you. It really does come from leadership. You can tell everyone has this curiosity and hunger to adopt new tools. How do people get in contact with you if they want to chat
Yeah.
more?
There's a couple ways to get in contact with me. I would say you can look me up on LinkedIn, just David Morris, and it'll pop up. You can click through 8 shows that I work at Kinetics. You can also contact me. I'll put my personal email address on here. It's DC and then my last name Morris. So DC Morris and then the number 1 at gmail.com. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. I'm not very active on Facebook. So I would say LinkedIn or just straight email. Feel free. There's nothing wrong. If I see an email pop up, I'll always answer within a day. So if anyone has any questions or just wants to chat, I'm more than happy to talk.
The AI adoption, I think you guys are further ahead than almost any of our other clients. We're seeing huge advances there. So it's exciting to see what's happening.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your story, Dave. It was really fun to hear about your Project Zero and your journey. And I think your arc, your project management arc to getting to portfolio manager professional, like you did it, man. Congrats. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate the chance to talk on here.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone who joined us here at Project Zero this week. Be sure to subscribe to Project Zero wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll catch you next week with another great project leader story.